And I read so much growing up. I used to get 9 books out of the library on a Thursday, read them, and then take them back the next Thursday and get another 9 out.
You're a G.
That's what.
You're a G. That's a record. 9. How does it feel to be in this settings, in the humble bookshop, considering you're no longer just an avid reader, you're on your way to be a published author? So let me actually rephrase that. Salma, how does it feel to be a best-selling author?
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. Do you know what? Now that I've gone through the process and the book is imminent, to stand in spaces like this, you just appreciate them a lot more, especially independent bookshops, because I think independent bookshops take chances on authors that are unknown, and they take chances on diverse voices, and they really champion them. And so I have such gratitude and love for the independent bookshops of this world. I would say they don't get enough credit.
I like that. That sounds like your speech. Your bestseller award.
Do you know what? Just came up with it.
What award are you winning? What award are you trying to win this year? At some point in my life, I want to win the Booker Prize. I've always wanted to win the Booker Prize. Inshallah, I'll put it out there.
Ya Rab, please God, everyone pray to all the gods.
I'll put it out there, or I'll pay the right person for you. Don't worry, we'll make it happen regardless.
But I've wanted that since I was a kid. I've always been like, I'm going to win the Booker Prize one day. This novel that's just coming out, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to win the Booker. The next one, maybe.
God willing.
Maybe third one.
Yeah, that's
get closer.
It's a marathon. As my word to it, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Exactly.
No, and I hope to be there when they shower you with praise. Growing up, you're just a young Salma running around Newcastle. Actually, Egypt, where?
Yeah, Egypt, then Newcastle. Mainly Newcastle.
Where did you discover your love for reading?
Didn't have a TV growing up.
Really?
No, my mum threw it out because she said it was, I don't know, she's not a fan of it. She said, we watch it all day and no one learns anything.
Which is a good...
Which is a fair point, right? So when I have a really, really young memory of watching the TV with my brother.
Yeah.
We used to have porridge every morning.
Yeah.
So I remember coming
Sounds like you were in prison. No TV and porridge every morning. Yeah.
And I was home educated. So
okay, cool.
I had all the makings of a weird child, right? And I remember coming in my porridge and I was so engrossed in the TV, like this, just, oh my God, amazing. And then I sat down in my brother's porridge bowl.
Oh, wow.
In front of the TV, right? That's the only memory I've got of the TV. And then my mum threw it out when we were about 4.
Wow.
The TV was gone. We've never had one in our house. To this day, there's not one in the family home.
That is dope.
But we had a bookshelf each. Everyone in their room had their own bookshelves. My brother had one, I had one. There was a huge one downstairs. That was it. Everyone had books. And if we wanted entertainment, then you would just go and read books. So the books were kind of the TV case.
That's interesting. I actually had a TV and I ate more than porridge. Sometimes I had fish and chips. No, but my aunt made a very critical decision that I feel like changed my childhood, where she was like, you can't watch TV during the week.
Oh,
so as a result of that, you start picking up books.
Something else, right?
So what was your favourite book at that age then? What's the first book you remember picking up?
Oh my God, really? Do you remember the first book you picked up?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes, the Quran, of course. I picked it up and worshipped the divine, the divinity.
Who do you think's watching this? Who are you trying to preach to here?
Okay.
Your mama watching?
Okay, what book as a child really inspired you? As a young slip of a thing? Yes, because I remember you actually mentioned to me, so we actually have a book
here. There you go, there it is.
Little Woman, Louisa May Alcott.
This was one of my favourite books, it still is. I would say this is my favourite book of all time.
Really?
Beautiful, yeah.
I've seen the film, there's an adaptation, right?
So there's a film, the film that just came out?
No, very old film, when it was original film.
Winona Ryder, Susan Sarandon, Christian Bale, Kirsten Dunst. Stellar cast.
I forgot about she's in Stranger Things.
Winona Ryder.
Yeah. She forgot she was in the original one.
She was in the original, played Jo March. Oh. She was the original Jo March and my personal heroine. I always wanted to be Jo March.
Really?
Yes, and I always saw myself in her. And I thought, I don't want to get married and do housework and have kids. I want to write stories. I want to write books, which is exactly what Jo March was. She just wanted to write stories and she riled against tradition and convention. And if you've watched the original film
a while back,
ages ago, and if you can cast your mind back and remember, there's a scene in the original film that she finishes her manuscript that she's been working on. She's tried other things and none of them have worked and the publishers haven't picked them up and she can't find what she should be writing. And so she takes a punt and she writes something else. and she works on it, and then at the end she ties it up, all of the papers that she's done on the typewriter, because it was the olden days.
Yeah.
And she ties it up with a bit of brown ribbon, and she puts a flower from her vase on her desk in it, and that's the complete manuscript that she gets ready to send. And when I finished my manuscript and I printed it all out and I tied it up with a brown ribbon and I put a flower in it, and I remember putting it out and being like, this is my Jo March moment.
You finally done it. You finally done it.
My
Big up
Jo
yourself.
March
Nah, big up
moment.
yourself. I respect it. I respect it.
Obviously extra and super cheesy.
No, it's not cheesy. You know,
but it fulfilled me.
It's not cheesy. No, it's like when Messi scores the penalty to win the Champions League. You know what I mean?
It's
Obviously,
exactly like
not
that,
thousands
Sonny.
of people are
It's
watching
exactly
you, and I doubt the outcome's going to change people's lives and make you know what I mean. But it will make you money. Exactly. Is that so? You know, book or film? What do you prefer?
Book, always.
Always.
Never, always.
Always.
Do you know what? The only film that outdid the book ever, in my opinion, was Lord of the Rings.
No way! You're crazy. Wait, are you serious? No,
Swear
Lord of
to
the Rings,
God.
the book is much better than the
Give me the Quran, I'll swear on it.
Really? No, Lord of
Yes.
the Rings, the book is much better than the film.
Listen, it's a good book, but J.R.R. Tolkien goes on. The man
Oh
labours
my,
a
this is-
point.
it-
Like, you walk into a room and he spends 45 pages explaining the room.
Okay.
I said, bro, move on. We know the wood.
Okay, a confession to make actually,
yeah.
yeah. I read that when I was really young, and I remember skipping pages of description.
And why did you
I remember
skip pages of description? Because it's too long.
Because
It's
he's
too
an
much.
expressive writer.
I know, but there's a line and he takes it too far. It's unnecessary, which is why the film did it such justice, but also cut a lot of that out.
No, I don't even think Peter Jackson would agree with you in
Yeah,
that
he
respect.
would. Call him.
Tolkien, someone made a great analogy about Tolkien. They said that someone was asking J.K., you're a Harry Potter fan, right? Who isn't a Harry Potter fan? And they were saying, what's the difference between Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings? And someone said, when I read Harry Potter, I feel like I've gone into Hogwarts, you know, and I've explored Harry's life. So when I read Tolkien, I feel like I've lived years in Middle Earth and I've experienced, you know, the ages of heroes and, you know, and the description is what does that.
Okay, and another kind of similar writer, Robert Jordan, The Wheel of Time.
Yes.
Which you know is a fantasy series that I live and die by.
Yes.
So help me God, I love The Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
That is a 14-book series.
Yes.
And each book, as you know,
Yes, it's massive,
thick,
yes.
It's hench, right?
Yes.
So you could make that argument as well that
The Wheel of Time is not better than Lord of the Rings.
All I'm saying is The Wheel of Time immerses you in that world and you feel like you've lived ages in that world.
Because
and
you have
understand
14
it,
books.
But he does it better than J.R.R. Tolkien.
No, because that's 14
he doesn't
books.
labour a point.
That is 14 books. I struggled through the first one. I think I'm on the second one. That's 14
Of The
books.
Wheel of Time?
Yeah, and on
Bro,
top
you
of
need to
that,
catch
I
up.
mean, rest his soul. He didn't write the last 4 of
R.I.P.
them.
Yeah, Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah.
did it with
Do you
him.
read Brandon Sanderson?
No, just the Robert Jordan.
Oh, you need to
mashup.
read. You need to read Mistborn.
Okay, fine.
Brandon Sanderson's
I'll
cold.
read Mistborn if you finish The Wheel of Time.
The most romantic book you've ever read.
The most romantic book I've ever read.
Yes.
I struggle with that answer because I think lots of books are romantic in different ways. And I don't really, you know, you could say Jane Austen, Shakespeare, all of them are romantic as well as
Yeah, true.
like the rom-com
Yeah.
section. But the one that comes to mind is Madeline Miller, The Song of Achilles. Have you read it?
Okay, so I know what it's about. I haven't
I have
read
to
it.
sniff it. I
So-
can't pick up a book without sniffing it. Maybe the smell of the book.
Yeah, the smell of a fresh book. I like it. I like it.
So I can't go around bookshops too much. It looks bad.
I can't. It's just where I'm sniffing the book
Yeah, maybe.
like an addict. So I know the premise. It's about Achilles, the great Trojan warrior,
Yes.
and apparently he was in love with a man in the Trojan army, not in the Trojan army. Wait, which army?
Patroclus is who he was in love with.
Yes,
Did you watch Troy the movie?
of course I've seen. No, I know Greek mythology prior to Troy and Brad Pitt, and I know Greek mythology. I know
I'm
who
not
Achilles.
questioning it.
I know
I'm
who
not-
Achilles is.
Okay.
Okay.
all
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Cool.
But what my point is, in the movie, they made Patroclus Achilles' cousin.
Yes, he's not his cousin.
No. Well, no, in Greek mythology, he wasn't. And they were lovers and
Really?
they were in love with each other. Yeah, but the westernized Hollywood version kind of took that part out.
Yeah.
But this is so beautiful. And when I think about a love story, the love between Achilles and Patroclus and how it ends just breaks your
No spoilers,
heart.
no spoilers. Madeline Miller, I've got interest in, so I'm not familiar with her, but all her books I've kind of seen, they've kind of like a retelling of history?
Greek mythology.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
she deals in Greek mythology.
Okay, so is that what she specializes in?
I think so, yeah. I've read 2 of her books, and yeah, she specializes in Greek mythology, retells them in a stunning and very different way to what I think we've all grown up hearing.
Yeah.
But this is romance. This is love here.
Really?
True love. Yes.
Really?
Yeah, that I'd go so far as to say that.
Like The Notebook, kind of like.
Maybe even better.
Yeah, the Notebook.
Is The Notebook your...
No. The film
romance?
is. The film is.
No,
the film
it is.
is.
It's classic.
The film is. The film
Classic.
is. Ryan Gosling. Authors. Who would you say is potentially overrated in your opinion?
I feel like I don't want to cuss out my fellow authors.
Which you're not. You're
Which
just
is-
stating your opinion, which you're entitled to.
Do you know what? It's hard being an author. Writing a book is really, really hard. I never want to throw shade at anyone. However, that being said,
however,
in terms of, you said authors that I think are overrated, or books that I wish I never read.
books that you wish you never read, that you didn't appreciate the way they were
Fun.
put together.
But genuinely a book that I wish I had never ever read was Memoirs and Misinformation, a novel by Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey wrote a novel.
Yes, as in Jim Carrey, The Mask Jim Carrey.
Wait, Jim Carrey when he was Liar Liar, the Masked Jim Carrey, or
Like-
recent Jim Carrey, the one
Present day Jim Carrey.
the woke Jim Carrey.
The woke Jim Carrey.
What's wrong with his book?
It was so bad. And let me just caveat this by saying, I like him. You know that graduation speech that he did, that really famous graduation speech, was so good. I feel like he's got these incredible insights. And so I bought it and I was so excited. I pre-ordered it. I pre-ordered that. I was so excited about it. It was so
What was it
bad.
about? Give me a quick synopsis.
This man in Hollywood who'd made it really big, had loads of money, was very successful, was really depressed, had huge paranoia. Whether any of this is autobiographical, I do not know. But he had huge paranoia and he had put security guards up all around him, and then some kind of end of the world apocalypse thing was happening, and there was a character that was very much like based on Gwyneth Paltrow, and she was kind of there a lot, and then they all went to some other rich Hollywood man's house.
This sounds kind of cool in my opinion. You're actually selling it to me, to be honest.
But you know what? Fine. Go and read it, and then let's reconvene. But it was one of those books that I genuinely was so annoyed that I had spent the time reading.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't like it. And another one, Susan Hill, I'm the King of the Castle.
What's that book about?
2 young boys, a couple gets together and they each have a son, and so now they're stepbrothers, but one of them bullies the other one relentlessly.
You know, I actually hate books with unlikable characters. Have you read The Kite Runner?
Oh, yes.
So the main protagonist is
I read it ages ago.
You're supposed to like him, but he's a bit of a prick before you like him. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah, so I kind of like, I don't like that book. And I think there's another book, I think it was Lord of the Flies I had the same experience with.
Which is an interesting conversation, right? Because do you have to like the character to like the book?
That's exactly
Why do we have to like the characters?
That's
and
exactly,
actually, if an author can write something where you hate them, they've done their job.
Yeah, very
They've
true.
made you feel
because you've had
something.
an emotional reaction.
100%.
Even Fight Club, the original book, apparently Tyler Durden, like he's an arsehole, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
But that's part of the story and the narrative that people fall in love with.
L.M. Montgomery, Anne of Green Gables, written years and years ago.
Yeah.
Great.
You know, we're going to get someone to kind of like...
Complaining.
We're going to get someone to come and kind of like check you out.
I know, it's so good.
Maybe
Anyway,
you have
and
some
do you know
kind of
what? A
phobia.
red book and an unread book, they smell different.
Do they?
Tell it, yeah.
My red books smell different because I read them everywhere. Toilet, kitchen, bathroom.
Stop.
If you have a good book, you don't put it down. If
No.
you have a good book, you don't put it down.
No, I don't want to. I want to rewind. That's this part of my life.
Where do you read most of your books?
In bed, on the sofa, or in the bathtub.
You never read. How do you read in the bathtub?
Oh, it's just my legs are up. What do you mean? How do you read in the bathtub? What do you do in the tub?
I shower. I walk in and shower. I read
But-
on the
well,
toilet.
that's not a tub. No. How much time are you spending on the toilet to do all your reading on the toilet? No, you know what?
Someone
I don't
else
wanna have this
actually asked me
I
that in
don't
the
want to
last
have this conversation. I feel sick. I don't want to talk about it.
Let's talk about L.M. Montgomery. What?
L.M. Montgomery, Anne of Green Gables. This was also one of my favourite books growing up. Orphan girl gets adopted by a brother and sister who run a farm, and she constantly gets into clumsy scrapes. I was a clumsy child.
Yeah. What was the clumsiest thing you ever did?
Spoke to my soul. I went ice skating and chopped my finger off.
Seriously? Did it grow back?
Well, it didn't grow back. They sewed it back on.
Oh,
but I fell like this, and see this white scar. This part of my finger was hanging on by a bit of skin, so they had to sew that back on.
How old are you?
Came off my bike, scraped all the skin off my face, and they had to put me to sleep and scrub the gravel out. Got a titanium arm. I used to walk into lampposts.
Why did you have a titanium arm?
Shattered the bone so completely they had to take it out and put a titanium bone in.
What were you doing? You're like Tony Stark now. Salma Stark.
You
know who Tony Stark is, right?
Yes, I do.
He's Iron Man.
Iron Man,
you're the
yeah.
Iron Woman.
It's exactly, without the funds and the resources. Unfortunately. So I was a clumsy child, so this spoke to me a lot. She was always getting into trouble, and I remember a line in it that she says, I may make a lot of mistakes, but I never make the same mistake twice. So if I've made one mistake, I learn from it. And I remember telling my mother that when she was shouting at me about something I'd done.
Well, you said that to your mum, both ways.
Yeah, I was like, look, at least, you know, I've learned something. I won't make that mistake again.
Did she commend you or did she slap you?
I think she slapped me.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah. That sounds a lot
Told me to go to my room. Yeah.
That sounds a lot more plausible.
Yeah.
But I've noticed a theme with all the books that you really like. They're all written by female women authors. Yeah. Is that deliberately because your agenda or your mission is to champion women writers in the space, or that's just... I personally find that women across the board have written, not saying they're better writers, but they've written books that have moved me more consistently than their male counterparts.
Yeah, I love the stories of women. I'm obsessed with women's lives and their stories. And I read so much growing up. I used to get 9 books out of the library on a Thursday, read them, and then take them back the next Thursday and get another 9 out.
You're a G.
You're
a G. That's a record. 9.
Every single week. So by the time before I was a teenager, I'd read out the kids section and I'd read out the teenage section and I had to go to the adult section. Every single week, 9 books. And then I did a degree in English literature.
Yeah, of course.
And then I did a master's in English literature. And when I was young, my mum made me read all the classics. So
really?
She gave me Tolstoy, War and Peace, when I read that when I was 9, right?
Really?
She gave me all the Dickens, all the Shakespeare, all the Austen, all the classics I had read from a very young age, right? Because so much of my life was in literature and then study at university was in literature, I have spent so much time in the canon, right?
Yeah.
What we call the canon.
Yeah.
Which means I have spent so much time around male authors.
Yeah.
Because that is what dominates the canon.
100%.
We might be having conversations now about how we change that and how we put more female authors in the canon yet, but we weren't having it. Back then, you know,
not at all.
I was reading Tolstoy, I was reading Shakespeare, I was reading Dickens.
Yeah, 100%.
So much of it was in that, and I, personally, just not that interested in the lives of men. I'm just not. And do you know what? Here's the thing as well. The worldview that you and I live in, the dominant worldview is male.
Yeah.
So we live in the dominant male worldview, which means I'm subjected to the male worldview every single day. So I'm not then
going to pick up a book.
I'm not interested then in furthering the dominant male view and reading about male stories and there is one exception to this, which we will get to in a moment. There's one exception to this. No. I mean, fantasy, I suppose, is a bit different, but again, very dominated when I was growing up by men. But I'm just not that interested in then once more being submerged by male perspective. And so I want to read female stories and I want to read about women's lives because they haven't been told enough. And yeah, I want to read from female authors.
No, I can totally appreciate that because I do find when I do read books written by women or females, it gives me a perspective that's not articulated anywhere else because I guess you have complete control over the world in what you're writing. Whereas when you watch it on television, there's always, you know, a balance or there's a leaning towards the male protagonist or trying to make it, you know...
or make those women palatable too.
Yeah, trying to draw out
stereotypes
things.
or
I agree.
Whatever. And in literature, you can get these gritty, raw, uncomfortable women that don't have to be polite and nice and attractive and beautiful and quiet. Yeah. You get like a different kind of woman, which is exactly what Lisa Taddeo does. And she does it so incredibly well, of like just raw grit. 3 women, it's called 3 Women. It's about 3 women. And it's non-fiction.
Oh, really?
It's true story. Yeah, she followed the lives of these 3 different women across America for years and years and years and then wrote their stories down.
Isn't your book about free women, Salma? Let's talk a bit about your book. Do I get an exclusive on your book? Is my name anywhere in the forward of the 500 printed copies that you signed for Waterstones?
It is not.
I'm so upset that I'm not in your acknowledgements, but I'll take it. Salma, now that you've written your debut novel, like what is the plan? I just think, what does that feel like having done that? Actually, what was the process of actually getting through it to the end?
It's a long process. We're not even there yet because it's not even out.
It's
technically.
How many years has that been?
In having it in my head and thinking about it and wanting to write it, and it's been since maybe 2011. It's been sitting in my head.
It's been 10 years if you're saying. From when you started,
of having it in my head, and like I wrote an initial chapter all those years ago. Obviously, it's very different and didn't make it into the book, but that's when pen went to paper. And it's years of having those characters in my head, thinking about them, changing things, switching things, being ready to write it, not being ready to write it. And then all of a sudden, in 1 month, I just wrote the whole thing.
Wow. Well, how does your mum feel? Like the person that introduced you to literature. How does she feel knowing that her daughter's a published author?
She is very proud. She read the book before it went, like once it was signed, she read it, asked me one question, which I shall not be divulging publicly.
That's totally fine.
And then said how much she loved it.
Really?
Yeah, and how proud she was. She really loved it. I know.
That sounds like an emotional experience.
It was emotional. It was wild. But yeah. It's been a long, long time coming.
What's the moment that made it feel like worthwhile? Was that the moment?
Do you know what? 2 weeks ago, I got a parcel on my door.
Okay.
And it was
Do you usually get parcels on your door?
I get a lot of parcels on my door.
What kind of business are you in to get parcels?
Amazon business, isn't it? Aren't
Okay,
we all?
cool.
I've been funding the Bezos family
yeah,
Christmas
the machine,
for some time,
is active in my house, boy. We're like a depot, honestly.
Exactly. And I got this box arrived on my doorstep 2 weeks ago, and it was the US cover of the book, and it was the US versions of the book. And until this time, I hadn't held a copy of my book, hardback, fully bound, acknowledgements, dedication, the whole thing. And this was ready to go to bookshelves, right? And I unwrapped the box and I held it in my hand, and then I cried.
Really?
Yeah, and I thought about like little Salma, who wanted to be a writer from years and years ago. I thought about little Salma reading Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier and getting to the end of Rebecca and being so shook by the ending and immediately thinking, I want to make people feel like this. I want to do this. I want people to feel like this because of something that I've done. And I thought about that little Salma thinking that, and then there I was with this full book in my hands. And I don't know if I'll cry every time I publish a book or if it's just a first thing type of thing, but I wept holding that book.
What book would you recommend? The book that really moved you and you'd recommend to somebody and be like, this book is going to take you on a journey and really wrench you through the characters' souls?
I'm going to recommend to everyone watching and to you that you should read A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara.
I love the way we place it there, and you had to bring it down. Do you want to sniff it?
I do.
Do your thing. Do your thing. Do your thing. You're a book addict. Sniff it. Take one sniff.
This is greatness. I just sniffed greatness.
No, take it. Take it. Inhale it.
A Little Life. Now, this is the exception to my rule about wanting to read stories of women and women's lives, because this is a book about 4 men. Primarily 1 man, but about this friendship circle with these 4 men. And it is the saddest thing I have ever read in my life. When I tell you the last 100 pages, I didn't cry like this. You know when you read a book, I don't know if you cry when you read books, but you know when people read books and there's like a solitary tear.
Oh, you're like the water in underneath, you quiver a little bit, but I don't cry like that, but maybe a little quiver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sobbed, like shoulders shaking, snot pouring, convulsing, heart-wrenching, as if someone had just left my life, sobbed through the last 100 pages. And then I immediately bought it for all the friends that I know, and I give it a birthday present. We
have a copy on our shelf. I believe that came from you.
There you
so
go.
I'll give full disclosure.
I want people to feel the pain.
Actually, full disclosure, I actually said to Linda, obviously you and my wife are good friends, I said to her, Salma's going to be the show. She goes, I know exactly what book she's going to say her favourite. She goes, this Little Life. And I was
she
like,
knows.
Yeah.
She knows. Listen, let me tell you, this book is devastating and it is heartbreaking, but it is also a testament to how much love there is in the world. And it's beautiful. And Hanya Yanagihara writes sentences that makes me want to stop and read them 4 times over and savor them because they're so beautifully constructed. It will break your heart. And everyone I've given it to says, you made me sob, you made me cry. And the person who gave it to me wrote in the inscription in the front, "Dear Salma, happy birthday, the date. Sorry in advance for making you cry."
Really?
It will break your heart.
She's got a new book out now, hasn't she?
Yes, Paradise, which I have on my shelf ready to read. Read this. If you're an aspiring writer, read it. If you want to know about how a good novel is constructed, read it. And if you are like me and have a permanent ache in your chest, read it.
I will read it. I always say to guests, depending on how passionate someone advocates for a book, that dictates how I approach it. It's like if someone says something is good and I don't like it, I'd rather know why I don't like it than just say...
Fair. What I have also learned about publishing is that it needs a massive revolution. And me and my friends, other writers, were saying we should found a publishing company.
We should do that.
So you go through it, learn the classic ways, and then see what you want to break about it, and then we'll set up a publishing company.
Okay. Oh, well, let's do that actually.
Yeah, why
because
not?
that would be cool because you'll be a bestseller by then.
Hopefully I'll have won the book club by then.
You would have won it by then.
You will have been published many times and be a bestseller.
Why would I have not won something? You should have said, I would have... Why would I have not won something?
Okay, well, let me ask you, do you want to win the Booker?
I'll be honest, my whole career, I'm not really interested in awards. I'm more interested about, like, I'd love to sell like 1 million copies of something.
Okay, so here's the question. If you could pick where you are selling millions of copies or you win the Booker, which one do you choose? You have to pick one.
Selling millions of copies.
You know what, me too.
Millions of copies.
And I want to win the Booker.
Yeah, I just feel like it's about connecting with the people, innit?
100%.
I feel like that's the most important. That's why there's one award in this world that is like, that I think has prestige and maybe that might even change, but that's the Nobel Peace Prize. I feel like if you win the Peace Prize, then it's like you did your thing in this life.
Okay, so would you rather win the Peace Prize or sell like 5 million copies of your book?
That's a tough one. I'll take the 5 million books, not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. I'm more of like, if I've touched 5 million people, it doesn't care what a bunch of people in the boardroom think about what I'm doing.
There you go.
You know?
100%. I would take it as well. Yeah. And I want the accolades.
But accolades help sell the 5 million copies, innit? So
not necessarily, because I mean, you've got books that are hugely popular and they're not deemed literary great. Harry Potter, everyone buys.
But that is great. In 50 years' time, it will be though, because of impact. It's like the whole Van Gogh thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? The whole idea that when you're alive, people can't appreciate it that way, and especially with JK, how people perceive her. But
or a different example, 50 Shades of Grey, that sold millions.
So okay, that's
no one considers it a literary great.
Very true. You know, it's actually one of the top selling books, 10 selling books of all time.
I rate it.
The Bible, the Quran, the Alchemist, and a lot of people don't really rate the Alchemist.
The Bible, the Quran, and some BDSM.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right. That's humanity right there. Religion and sex. There you go. That's it.
Let's end it on that. Religion and sex.
Religion and sex.
I hear that.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
It's pleasure's all mine. Can I get an acknowledgement in your book?
No.